Joining me now is Jared Bernstein, former chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors and former chief economist and economic policy advisor to Vice President Joe Biden. Jared, President Trump lashed out against the weak jobs market, or jobs numbers, I should say, that were reported for July. He railed against the downward revisions from May and June. They were pretty significant. According to Axios, a top economic advisor to the president called the data, quote, very unreliable. Let's set aside for a moment the firing of the official in charge of the data. Do the president and his advisors have a point? Are there now, and have you ever seen a reason to believe that there should be concerns with the veracity of this data?
Unequivocally, no. It's a great and important question. There are many layers to this, but the top layer has to be that this is a completely unjust move against the Bureau of Labor Statistics, an institution with tremendous integrity, with zero political thumbs anywhere near their many scales. They've been doing this for a decade upon decade. They engage in the best political practices, and they are wholly insulated from politics. The president couldn't be more off base. What's happening here is reality is intruding upon his alternative reality, where all the terrible policy that he's throwing at the economy somehow doesn't hurt it. But that chicken is coming home to roost, and we're seeing the negative effects from tariffs, deportations, so on, in the economic data now. So what do? They try to convince us that the data are wrong.
So what kind of precedent in your mind does it set to fire the head of the government agency that's tasked with collecting this data that the economists out there are relying on? Do you think that a Trump appointee would fare better in this situation?
No, I mean, I think the message now is if you bring the president numbers he doesn't like, you better get your resume in order. And it doesn't, it's not, you know, what my personal view of this is what I've been stating. We actually have many historical examples of countries that have gone down this path to a banana republic when statistical agencies are so compromised. We've seen this in Greece. We've seen this in China. Every time it happens, if it persists, eventually the world stops believing your numbers, and you have to pay more if you're going to try to sell bonds. You have to, the markets have great difficulty figuring out which way is up or down. This will redound against the economy, against the country. And by the way, if the labor market is doing as poorly, if these numbers stick, if the labor market is doing as poorly as it did over the past 3 months, everybody's going to know it. And firing the personnel isn't going to change that.
So speaking of the labor market, is this now the time? Trump has been attacking Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Here's the reaction from the former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers to that. And then I want to get your reaction to what's going on now.
I think that this kind of political Fed bashing is a fool's game. The Fed doesn't listen. So short-term interest rates aren't going to be different because of it. The economy's at a lot of risk, and he's looking to set up a scapegoat if the economy performs badly. That's what this attacking Chairman Powell is really about. It's not really about trying to change policy.
So two-part question here. What's your take on Summers' comments there? Is the president scapegoating Powell? And now that we see the sinking of the jobs market, is there a potential that Powell could cave and lower interest rates?
Yeah, that second question is particularly salient right now. And the first question, Larry's right, pure scapegoating. It's the same thing with the BLS commissioner. Again, if the numbers confront the alternative reality wherein these folks reside by themselves, they've clearly shown that they don't accept the numbers. They're attacking the messengers. The Fed has a challenge right now. This is a more substantive case. On the growth point, on the labor market point, it's pointing towards lowering interest rates sooner than later. But we have stagflation, meaning inflation is going the other direction. We learned last week that the inflation gauge that the Fed watches most carefully came in at 2.8% year over year. The Fed's target is 2%, so we're closer to 3 than 2, and that puts them in a bind. The labor market is saying lower rates. Inflation is saying pause, wait, see what happens. The only quick resolution to this, by the way, would be to call off the trade war, and they're not going to do that.
Definitely no sight that they're going to do that anytime soon. Jared Bernstein, always appreciate your economic insights. Thank you for joining us on a Sunday.
Thank you.